and welcome back to Men 101. Okay, boys, Tony, Nick, Derek.
Al.
What's up?
What's going on? Derek, Nick, growing the hair.
Yes.
Nice.
It's been growing for a couple of weeks.
Looks good. You're in Greece for a couple of weeks, you know. So.
I've been back a few weeks.
We missed you, big guy. We missed you.
Yeah. Wow. And a hot topic today, boys, gun violence. Big guest on 40 Flex. And our singer today is Amoy, a Jamaican reggae artist.
Cool.
So it should be fun. A little lighter note, Blue Jays, playoffs.
That's right.
Hockey season.
Started.
Yeah.
Football season.
Yeah.
All that
Guys
jazz.
month, eh? Oh, look at Derek. That's the thing with Derek. I don't watch sports.
No, I'm into hockey. I'm from Ottawa.
What do you mean, sort of? So what does that mean?
Well, I'm from Ottawa. You can't escape hockey at all. So I'm a Sens fan. I know that's not popular in this city, but I'm a hockey fan. Football, no. To me, that's a nightmare.
Too aggressive.
It's not that it's aggressive. I like aggression. It's just I find it boring, very boring.
Really?
It's like
Yeah.
a chess game, football. When I first started watching it, I was like, these guys are just like hitting each other and catching the ball. But actually, I've learned a lot more where these guys, these offense line guys, are actually set up to tackle certain guys and to put certain guys
block.
off it. To block,
Offensive
sorry,
line or
block,
to block.
whatever. Right, there you go. So to learn how to his job is specific to that.
It's very
Sure.
it's very strategic.
Yeah, very strategic.
Yeah, no, I get that. My brother used to play football. I just don't like it.
The
really.
violence.
Yeah,
So
it's
you-
not the violence. No.
Do you
It's
like
just I
baseball
find
better
boring.
then?
Baseball?
Yeah.
You know what was really funny is I actually watched a baseball game a few nights ago with some friends.
Don't tell us it's the first time ever.
No, I've seen
was
them
the
before. But it was the first one that I've enjoyed since 1993, literally. It was exciting, but I think it was because the last time I enjoyed it, it was because it was all the hype around the Blue Jays, and it was like the 2 years that they won the World Series, 93,
Wasn't here
94, maybe it was.
I wasn't here
Yeah,
then.
that was
I just
before
got
your
here,
time
yeah.
in Toronto.
So you just jump on when they're doing good, and
well,
then you
the
jump
vibe,
off.
you can't help but really enjoy the vibe and ride the
It's good
wave.
for the city,
yeah.
though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good. It like pumps up the.
But it's a
city.
great time.
And the
Fall's
economy.
a great
Yeah.
time for men, for sports, and women that enjoy sports. It's a great time. You have Canadian NFL, baseball playoffs, hockey start back there. It's a
And the
great
ones
time
that-
for couch time for men, right?
But the ones that don't enjoy it, the wives that don't enjoy it, they get free time. Because the husbands watch football and soccer and hockey, whatever's on, and they can go do
There you
shopping,
go.
whatever
shop.
they need to do. It's their free time to themselves.
Not
As long
too
as they take their credit,
not-
his credit card, it's all good.
Not too sexist, right?
No, but I know what I mean. They have their own free time. They don't have to
True.
sit by him and watch the sport.
Not necessarily shopping, but other things. Yeah, why not? I agree.
Spa day.
There you
There
go.
you go. There you go. Anyway, so it's always nice to start on a light note, whatever this and that, you know. Oh, I think by the time this show comes out, it'll be the U.S. presidential election.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's right.
that should be like right.
Do
We should be right in the
do you
middle of that.
really want to go there?
That's the
We're not going to
perfect.
say. I didn't say we're going to go there. I just said by the time this one comes
Yeah.
out, that's exactly what's going to happen.
The U.S. presidential election
Yeah.
is the perfect segue into gun violence, I think.
There you go.
That's-
Wow,
It's
true.
just me.
Yeah.
I mean, it
So
just
you
goes hand
started.
in
You might as well
hand.
continue.
Oh dear God.
Oh, Derek.
Well,
Come on,
actually,
you plenty of time
it's
before
funny.
we go to commercial.
It's funny. Yeah, I
You
know.
get-
This is my moment. It's my opportunity. Something that actually struck me as very interesting was just in the little bit of research that I did was that the gun violence in Canada may pale in comparison on paper, but what we deal with here is, I think it's 80% of gun violence in Toronto or in Canada is suicidal, is all suicide.
Suicide related.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Is suicide
That's
related.
what it is here
So
in
that's where
Canada.
the big issue
Not like
is
the U.S.,
in
where it's
Canada.
just
No, where people
Wild
are
Wild
actually
West.
homicide. Yeah.
From 2003 to 2012, slightly over 5,500 suicide deaths
Yeah.
in Canada.
Wow,
with the guns.
Gun-related suicide deaths.
that's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. That's intense.
Yeah.
There was
That's a lot.
another stat I was reading up online about it. It was based on Toronto. So the first 4 months of this year, gun violence went up 200% from last year.
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah, I read that same thing.
That's
I know being here, I remember, was it last year they had the shooting at the Eaton Centre? No, it wasn't last year, it was the year before last actually. And then, because I'd go to Carabana a lot, and there was a whole thing where people didn't want to be at Carabana in case there was retaliation. But that whole summer, there was a lot of gun
Yeah,
violence
there was
going on.
now, and I also want to touch on that 200% rise. I read the number, and it sounds very shocking when you see the 200% rise. but when you look at the actual numbers, it was, I think, 6 homicides due to guns reported in 2015, and in 2016 it was 18 as opposed
Exactly.
to the 6. So, I mean, it's still kind of...
But you just watched the news today. Like, I mean, you look at the United States and it's an ongoing occurrence, and it's a bit of a headache down there. I don't understand why they don't change the Second Amendment, but it's my opinion. I'm from Ireland. It's completely different. However, I watch CP24 every day, and it just seems like there's a shooting every day.
In the States.
Here in Toronto, the greater Toronto area, it just seems like there's a shooting every day.
Well, when I lived here, every day I hear there was a murder, shot, someone got killed every day in the news, and I'm not used to that, right?
We're not saying not like you said, but not necessarily somebody actually gets shot, but like drive-bys and there's somebody shot at and this and that, and like it's just constant right now.
I think the gap is there. I think what you're talking about is shootings, and I think the data that we were looking at were deaths caused by shootings. So
Yeah,
there
but
are shootings, people getting injured by guns.
Our topic is gun violence.
Yeah.
Whether you're
And I
alive
don't
or
know
dead,
the statistic between like those who have survived the gun violence and those who died from it. You know, you understand
40
what I mean?
Flex would probably have a statistic on that, hopefully.
I hope so.
You know, but like, we talk about going to the south of the border, and it's ridiculous down there. Just look at Toronto. It's starting to sound more like the U.S. Like just guns left, right, and center.
Yeah, but it also goes with the amount of people that live here. No, I mean the more.
It's gun violence. Like,
No,
what do you
it's
do?
not-
What do you
no,
do with the
but I
gun in
mean,
the
It's
first
not
place?
necessarily the amount of people, it's the accessibility you have to guns. You can go to an antique convention and there's old guns. You can buy one without a license, without anything in the States.
Yeah, in the States.
In the States.
But I'm talking about here, just
But
in
I know
general.
that if you
Canada.
like,
A proximity, right?
well, if you
Exactly.
if you're going to go to the shooting range here and you take your gun out of your house, like we know of a mutual friend in Montreal, and if you take the gun out of the house, you have to tell the police officer what route you're taking to go to where you're going.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Here in Canada.
Yep. He says when he takes his gun out of the house, puts it in his car, he has to tell him exactly what route he's going on to the gun.
You're talking about
that.
for a police officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That you or me, if you had a
for
gun.
a civilian.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
A civilian.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
ask him. So
I know it has to be locked in a case. That,
It's locked in a case too, yeah.
And there's a certain a certain license that you need to hold for it as well.
Yeah,
right?
In
you have
Canada,
to go through
yeah.
the RCMP. Yeah.
Yeah.
like they won't let me go to a shooting range and try it out.
I wouldn't
'cause
let you
don't
to
have a
shoot
license.
range anyway. It wouldn't make
Yeah,
any
that's
difference.
true. I'm not good with darks. Imagine
Anyway,
with a gun.
yeah.
That'd be even worse.
You ever hold a gun?
No.
There you go. That's why I wouldn't let you to shoot
Touched
range.
one. It's scary.
Anyway, you know what? We're going to come right back after the break and continue this. And welcome back. Farley Flex with us this afternoon. Farley, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Very well, very well. Just so everybody knows, Farley was one of the Canadian Idol judges back in 2003. That's correct, right?
Well, 2003 to 2008, 6
Wow,
years.
6 years.
The life of the show.
Well, that was great, great.
fun.
Eh? So now you're doing other stuff. You're the president of Plasma Management Productions and an integrated multimedia company. You're also the founder of Real School, Reality Education and Applied Life Skills, a non-profit organization. What else we got here? God, this guy's got a lot of stuff here, guys. It's hard to keep up. I was chosen to juxtaposition business endeavors with the community contribution as definition of self and entertainment, sports and belief. Wow. Big resume.
What's the what? People, right?
Oh, people.
Entertainment,
What'd I
sports,
say?
and people. ESP.
Yes. Oh, ESP.
Familiar acronym, right?
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, nice to have you here.
Nice to be here. Nice to meet all of you.
You know, and you know the topic here is the gun violence. So we're talking about that there just before you came on. So it seems to be like we were mentioning that. Well, I was mentioning that in Toronto recently, it seems to be a bigger problem than it has been in the past 15 years or so. It's really risen like the last several years. Is that correct?
Yeah, the incidences have definitely risen. What we do with Urban Rest Solutions is we focus more on the impact, right? Both from a social standpoint, certainly an emotional standpoint, and on families and what we call bystanders. So I heard you guys reeling off all the statistics, and that's all really good. The one category, I heard you speaking of deaths, I heard you speaking of shootings, but even when you have to drill down even deeper and think about just the sound of gunshots, and not necessarily aimed at someone, just a sound. Imagine being a 3, 4, 5, or for that matter, an adult, and hearing that waking you out of your sleep, or when you're watching television in your neighborhood. It's very traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I mean, I grew up in Northern Ireland. I grew up with, like, it was just an everyday occurrence for me with the violence and stuff that was going there. But do you feel like it's becoming? I know the US is a bigger problem with gun violence. Do you think it's starting to happen here more in Canada? Is Toronto like more of a hub for this that's going on? Because I've never heard a lot of it mentioned in Vancouver as much, or Calgary, or even Montreal, for instance, where it's got it's a multicultural city. It just doesn't seem to be in the news as much. But Toronto being a bigger city, a lot more money, maybe everybody availability towards weaponry. Is Toronto more the problem here?
You know, this might sound like an oxymoron, but when there's a lot more money, there's also a lot less money, right? And there's a relationship between poverty and violence that can't be argued. So what we look at is the places where the barriers to employment, barriers to pro-social behavior and so forth happen are more likely, right? And make it more difficult for young people to have options specifically for employment and so forth. So Toronto is a big city, world-class city, lots of money, but like I said, on the other side of the coin, there's a lot less money for a lot of people who are living below the poverty line. So that's part of what we address as well.
And do you find like, is there an age group for young adults? Is that there's like 14, 15, 16, or are they being tricked into do stuff, to buy guns or to do stuff for other individuals, or does that pop up?
Yeah, in terms of first-time offenses and things like that, certainly it's, you know, the youth is defined as 12 to 29. Right. But we actually drill down again even further, and we look at, you know, 3-year-olds. Like the ability to think critically, like critical thinking is something you learn from your parents. But if your parents don't have those skills, where do you learn them from? You learn them sort of laterally from your peers and so on and so forth. And a lot of stuff falls through the cracks in terms of life skills and so forth. So specific to our program, Just Think First, it's really about the awareness and the engagement of just thinking first, literally, just like, you know, buckle up or don't drink and drive. We want to integrate this and really proliferate the mindset to thinking, to getting to the point where people think first before they act. But that's not enough. It's like saying just do it, right? Just do what and how do I do it? So now the next phase, I guess you could call it, is going to deal with how to think. And it comes from a critical thinking standpoint. It comes from various pedagogies to talk about, you know, what is the thought process that someone who is fully supported in terms of what I call the social determinants of health, right, and has all those things at a normal or satisfactory level so that they can function positively and pro-socially as a human being.
Are you going into schools now to talk to?
That's absolutely part of the plan. This is a very ominous task, right? And we've chosen it not because we're not fearful of the size of what we're undertaking. We've actually built a model called the Collective Action Partnership, which allows everyone who's been working to mitigate gun violence to participate. And the analogy we use is ants moving a leaf. So we're not an umbrella organization. We're looking at ants moving a leaf from place A to place B, with everybody having the same purpose at the same time, knowing what distance needs to be traveled and where that leaf has to rest. In this case, gun violence, the leaf, we want to move it out of the universe, literally, right? But yeah, so to answer your question, we are going into schools, we're going into communities where we believe in that take the mountain to Muhammad kind of thing. So if you just say, just think first, people aren't going to come running, right? And you know, one of the obvious, I guess, challenges we've had is that our partnership is with Toronto Police Services. So a lot of the folks who have been through media and through whatever propagation of whatever decide that they're anti-police, our argument to that is, when have you ever resolved an issue with anyone without them participating in the resolution? You know what I'm saying? So you can't move yourself into a silo and say, that sucks, I hate it, and you're not having any dialogue with the folks that you have issue with. You know, so we're big about that. So the engagement with Toronto Police Services, beyond the financial support they've given, is the idea of closing the social gap between police and community. Critical, right? And that's the plan.
I was thinking, like the young youth, because the younger individuals in our society, they're brainwashed maybe, or they need a somebody to lean on or something like that. That program they have in the U.S., not to mention the U.S. that often, but they have that program, Scared Beyond Straight. They have anything like that here in Canada. We get the youth and bring them into a prison, because I think once you realize that you're going to be locked up on a 12x4 for the next 15 years of your life, and you don't really realize what it's like to take someone's life until it's too late.
Absolutely.
Having this weapon in your hand, it's nice, and you have authority and power and this and that. But the minute you pull that trigger, you can never like undo that.
Take it back. Yeah.
Right.
Life
So
has
do you think that finding a program like that might help?
You know what? It serves a purpose, but I think we work from more of a preventative standpoint, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of standpoint. So while deterrents like incarceration and loss of life are real, what we focus on is something what we consider a little more practical in terms of the rites of passage. So when you think of missing your child walk for the first time, or missing your daughter's or son's graduation, or missing, quite frankly, the Blue Jays playoff game. You know, the first day at Wonderland, the last day at the X, et cetera, et cetera. These are the things that most people enjoy, regardless of what their persona is. They enjoy it. And when you don't think first and don't know how to think prior to not choosing to think first, you run into situations.
Hold that thought, Farley. We'll be right back after
Absolutely.
the break with Farley. And we're back here with Mr. Flex. So you were saying there about, God, I've lost my chain of thought there. We have great conversations at the break all the time, and this is what happens when we go to break. What are we talking about, Derek?
Well, I haven't lost my train of thought. And what I wanted to say was, growing up, for my generation, in the 90s, there were a lot of programs that were implemented working with youth and police, and the focus was not so heavy on gun violence. I feel that in the past 20 years, it's exploded a lot more with gun violence. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think what is important to understand as well is media. Media recognizes that gun violence is the icon of violence, if you will. You know, just like when you talk about sports, you pick particular individuals, right, to help popularize that information. So it's the same thing with gun violence, but it's important because in this case with gun violence, it's the most serious and it's the easiest way to take a life technically, right? So we have to marry that with what's happening in movies and music and all these things for kids who are largely unguided. You could call them latchkey, you could call them deficiently parented, whatever it is. When they're not being raised in a home that offers them the life skills and, as I said, the critical thinking abilities and so on and so forth, they're being raised outside of the home effectively, right? Effectively. So, you know, it's all based on what their peers say is cool and what's the right thing to do. And, you know, when we looked at the psychographic of those who may resort to gun violence to resolve an issue, there are really two major categories. The category A will be the folks who live a lifestyle where gun protocol is part of that lifestyle. They may not be violent people themselves, but they're in, let's say, hypothetically, the drug game. And as you go through the ranks or whatever it is, there may arise an incident where gun violence is quote unquote necessary by the definition of the way they live their lives. The second one is people who just lack impulse control and conflict management skills. So one of our goals, our primary goal is to save lives, obviously. But secondarily, we have a number of things that we're trying to achieve. We're trying to have conflict management integrated into elementary school teaching, right, as part of the curriculum. Right. Like if you could teach preschool kids how to resolve an issue verbally in a constructive manner at that age, by the time they grow up, if they practice it and if they're learning it on a weekly or 2 times a week, whatever it is, until grade whatever, 12 or 14 years old or whatever it is, they're gonna know what to resort to, right? Because it's been successful for them. That's all people live their lives to, is what is successful. So if you don't have those skills, to you success is when the guy down the street found that somebody was selling something on his block and shot him, and that was the resolution. So that's what you're going to adopt as your behavior.
That's a really good second point there you make, because I seen a video recently how they're in the couple of classrooms in the US, how they've taken detention out of the classroom and they put in mediation.
Exactly.
Meditation.
That's exactly.
And these kids have excelled. Their grades have gone up. like it's brought a much more positive environment there, you know.
That said, I find that really interesting that you mentioned that because I can't remember. I wish I had. There's a police force
your homework,
in the United
Derek.
States. I did my homework, I swear. But I can't remember which police force it is. They now implement meditation. Every time cops come in for their shifts, they meditate. And the gun violence from those cops, because there is gun violence from cops, we know as well,
But I was just going to talk
has
about that.
gone way, way down. That said, I actually want to backtrack just a little bit. Do you see, because I see it, but do you see it in the communities that you're reaching out to, the glamorization of the gun violence?
Yeah, it's glamorization of lifestyle, which includes gun violence or the discussion and a lot of it is pretentious, quite frankly. A lot of people you hear, whether they be rapping about it or what have you, they don't actually have what it takes to pick up a gun and shoot somebody. Some do, quite frankly. Some do, but many, many don't. But it's popularized to the point where credibility is attached to violence, right? So someone who deals, and when you think about when we were kids, right, on the playground, it was the fastest kid and the toughest kid who got the most respect. Not the smartest kid in the class.
True.
Not the kid who was the most respectful to the teacher. Not the kid who brought the apple for the teacher. They were called a brown noser or a browner or whatever it was, right? But when you think about it, when you were 4, 5, 6, I remember playing, I was an athlete at a pretty high level. I remember playing British Bulldog, and that actually mitigated racism in my world, because I was the only black kid in my class, but I'd win British Bulldog 9 times out of 10, so people wanted to be my friend, right? If I was beating up people, they'd probably want to be my friend too. You know, so it starts way down there. That's why I'm saying we've got to drill down deeply, chronologically backwards, and say to ourselves, okay, little Johnny is 3 years old, right? Susie took his toy. How does Johnny manage that situation from a conflict resolution, impulse control standpoint? The kids who learn to do that are the kids who grow up safely and usually who can defer gratification somewhat. You probably heard of the marshmallow study they did.
No, but
they took a bunch of kindergarten kids and they put a marshmallow in front of like 25 kids and they said, don't touch the marshmallow. They studied those kids for 20 years, and the ones who were able to not touch it and resist the temptation ended up being the most successful both academically and professionally and in relationships.
Yeah.
Really?
Right?
Wow.
So deferred gratification is critical. Right, whereas the media pushes immediate gratification. These are smartphones.
Right.
Like
That's exactly
you're doing a
But you
crossword
know,
puzzle.
you know when you're told don't touch something, how hard is it not to go touch it? Yeah, take the marshmallow. You probably wouldn't take the marshmallow.
Yeah.
You know, no, don't touch it. Right away, you're like, why can I not go back to the beginning of time, if you want to call it like Adam and Eve, and don't touch that tree, and don't touch that apple.
Right.
You go back, and what's the
The
first
birth
thing?
of immediate gratification.
Right, there you go. And what's the first thing you do? You go take the thing you're not supposed to take. It's hard to hold back from something like that.
Your goal is to reach the kids at a young age.
Yeah, we're talking about reaching all people because it's a people issue. The reason we use the analogy of the ants moving a leaf is because anything that impacts an entire community has to be solved by the entire community.
Okay.
To leave segments out. And when you look at the pillars of society, which would be, let's say, corporate, government, faith communities, education, and families, right? Everybody has to be involved. And if one is missing, the other 4 have to pick up the ball. So when you have deficient parents who were not well educated socially or academically, they're raising kids. It's the babies raising babies thing, right? Their kids are just going to feed into that cycle and probably run on the treadmill even faster than they did.
Yeah, it's perpetual.
Right? Yeah, it's perpetual. It's intergenerational. It's the term they use, right? So what we have to do is make sure that we're filling in those gaps for those who can't properly parent their child. Fill in the gaps for those who can't properly feed their children. Fill in the gaps for those who can't properly give their kids exercise. All the key things that determine health, right, have to be supplemented or complemented or enhanced or whatever it is when there's a deficiency recognized.
Well, it's the idea of it takes a village, right?
Well,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's the idea of it takes a village.
Basically, you're not just coaching the kids, you're also coaching the parents.
Absolutely. Parents are all part of the program as well in terms of ultimate goal setting. We have to include the parents. We have to include, again, those pillars, institutional pillars. We have to include media for sure.
Darley, you know, you're getting Derek's stuff today. You got to hold that thought. We'll be right back after the break with 40 Flex again. Great conversation, guys. Great. Absolutely fantastic. welcome back here.
So I got a question. How are you getting your message across?
Okay, so the strategy, the media strategy we've adopted is, number one, to speak to the community in the same style they speak to each other in. Number one. So it's not a top-down thing. It's a lateral thing. So, for instance, when we post flyers or posters, the flyers look like it's either a party or a new movie's coming out. We don't put text, just think first, and 500 words on an 8.5 by 11 page. We make it engaging. It's very, very important to engage. You can't teach unless you can reach, right? Number one. What we also do, obviously, social media is a huge playground for, as far as communication amongst the youth demographic. So we have our Twitter and Facebook, etc., which is Just Think First, and First is one ST, not FIRST. So Just Think First TO.
Okay.
And our website is justthinkfirst.com, and that's also one ST. So it's very important not only to just go to the website or read our tweets or see our posts, but to it's call to action. If you truly believe this is something that impacts your community, you've got to like it so that we rise in prominence, so that we can ultimately be a second thought, literally like buckle up. Like nobody, how many people don't have to tell you to put your seatbelt on anymore? Right? But at first, I know for one, it took me like a while to realize, Farley, put your seatbelt on. Farley, put your seatbelt on. Farley, put your seatbelt on. But you really want this to be as common thought, part of the common thought process, so that people understand to just think first.
So,
right, in all
can
circumstances.
I ask you something really quick?
Sure.
So let's say a parent is having problem with their child or son, because
Which would be their child.
yeah, no, but their son, like I'm using a son, but it could be a daughter too. But they're part of something and they found a gun. Can they call you to ask you how to handle that situation? How to, you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes
absolutely.
you don't know how to deal with it. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
you're
well,
absolutely right, and that's part of the support system I'm talking about. If a parent doesn't have the answer, there needs to be somewhere, and it's not just us, by the way.
No.
There are a ton of different organizations out there, and that's why we built the CAP, so that the things that we're not experts at, folks who are already doing it and been in the trenches maybe even longer than we have, right, can say, this is what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Do you involve the law enforcement?
We're in partnership with Toronto Police
You are,
Services,
okay.
yeah, and we're in partnership with Ministry of Corrections, with Social Services, Education. It's an everybody issue, bro, and that's the thing we've got to all accept and recognize. Doesn't matter whether you live in Forest Hill or on Mississauga Road or wherever. It impacts everybody. Nobody thought there was going to be a shooting at shops on Don Mills or Yonge and Eglinton or Eaton Center. Like nobody thinks, like people relegated. Oh, it's happening over there.
There was one in the annex recently.
Yeah, the annex.
Well, that's the same we're talking about today, but just like in general, this organization's fantastic. Do you ever think going worldwide? Because like growing up in Northern Ireland and the UK and stuff, like even over there, like killings and shootings and murders by gun violence in the last 5 years has increased 14%.
Yeah.
Last year there was 574 deaths by gun violence, and it's increased by 74 deaths this year so far.
wow.
Like, people, for some unknown reason, the generation in the past 10 or 12 years, it's gotten worse. Like, I know growing up in Northern Ireland, they had their cause, they're both party factions, and it wasn't about just, it was gun violence, but it was terrorist organizations and stuff like that. But we never seen, there was no drugs over there when I was growing up, there was no violence, gun violence like that. But recently, in the last 10 years, things have changed drastically. Is it because we're giving everybody the opportunity to get their hands on a gun?
I think that's part of the problem. Access is obviously a huge factor, but important to note, though, is that violence is violence. So if we took all the guns away and people started using knives, which they started to do, if we took all the knives away and they started using baseball bats, etc., it's the same process to mitigate violence. You know, like I said, gun violence is kind of the icon of violence. So
it's extreme.
yeah, and you'll get more attention when you focus on the worst, the most iconic element, right?
And there's something
Everybody in
with
Toronto's
rights.
talking about Matthews, right? The
Right,
hockey player.
right.
He scored 4 goals last night. He's going to be in the news. Other guys on the team are going to be like, "Where's my name?" Right?
Correct.
So you have to focus on what the iconic elements are, and you utilize that as a strategy for engagement first and foremost. Standard media 101, right?
So should we actually too be getting the, like you said, was Derek mentioned, it's not just the youth or the individual society, it's also the officers. Like they're quick to draw, as you can look at the United States for example, they're quick to pull out a weapon. Like, and as I hear that recently, several years ago, that young guy getting shot on the TTC, like quick to pull the trigger. Like back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, an officer would have got on the TC bus and sat down and talked to him, and they would have chatted it out and got it sorted out. Done.
Well, and that's also why I said, in order to close that social gap, because now what you're talking about now is gun culture.
Right.
Yes.
Right, where people are so indoctrinated and desensitized, in some cases, to the value of their own lives, and in other cases, to the value of others' lives. So we have to close that social gap so we all value each other the way we're meant to. Compassion is a huge factor.
Right
if
on.
we're not compassionate about one another, like, why do we deserve to call ourselves a supreme, like at the top of the food chain?
Yeah.
Like I was watching something
But why did we? Sorry.
yesterday there about some guy posted something about prayer, and it's true. We're so quick to put on pictures and negativity on social media. It's quick. Nobody wants to like sit down and get the group as a group and talk about prayer. Like there was an old saying back when I was growing up in Ireland: prayer can move mountains. Prayer can change things. If you get the whole village talking about it, if I have 1 million people in the village and they're all doing the same thing, that can create positivity.
I'd love to interject there. So that's a great point. Now, prayer, obviously.
This is just an example.
No, it's a great example though, because prayer, you were meditating earlier, right? That's maybe your form of prayer. Other folks just being with loved ones is their form of solid, to get into the actual spiritual aspect of their lives. Doesn't mean you're part of any particular denomination. It's just your peace with the moment. So part of what we're instituting, a good friend of mine, Dwayne Matthews, along with my business partner, Roger Brereton, and our people, Nadine Spencer and her company, she's Brand EQ. What we've decided to do in terms of the collective action partnership is create something called crowd solving, right? Now, the key to crowd solving is there's a gentleman named Edward De Bono who created what's called the six hats, right? And it's a thought process basically that speaks to all of us thinking about the same thing at the same element of it at the same time.
Right.
Which is what you're talking about.
what it's talking about, correct.
Right?
Yes.
And it can be in prayer, it can be in discussion, it could be on a soccer field, it could
Right.
be anywhere. But the point is, nobody should be, when you're in that realm of thinking, and there are 6 levels of it, the first one being just the ideal outcome that everybody wants. Right?
Correct.
We all want a peaceful world. If you say, who wants a peaceful world? Everybody's going to raise their hand.
Right, but they're not.
Right?
You got to think about it.
You got to think about it,
You have
right?
to say
Collective
something,
thought,
correct? Yeah.
Exactly. Collective thought,
right.
lateral thinking, right? And then when you've got consensus, you move to the next level, which may be what are the challenges, the barriers, the SWOT method, right? And you figure those things out, but everybody's on that page. You don't have one person up here, the other guy's thinking, am I going to get paid out of this gig? Like, that's incongruent thinking.
Right.
Right? So we all got to be at the same level at the same time. That's essentially the approach to just think first.
It's
With-
co-collaboration, really,
Absolutely.
is what you're doing.
Absolutely. It's collective action. There's no question about it. And animals do it. I was saying to my son yesterday, technically, animals are so much smarter than we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
When ants move a leaf, sorry, I was going to say one more thing. When ants
You're
move
gonna,
a leaf,
you're getting per you today, because Derek always
getting
gets
cut?
it. You're gonna have to hold that thought. We're
I've
gonna
not
come
been
back to
cut
you.
off
Okay,
once.
sure
We're back
thing.
after the break with Farley. Great guy. We're having a great conversation. You're great, awesome. And welcome back. Like Farley Flex, man of knowledge here, man of
I'm
knowledge.
just saying that it's sad that it's taking so long for people trying to change it. You know what I mean?
But as Farley was saying, it's not. It can't be one guy up here and one guy down
Yeah,
here.
but in the old days, I'm talking about old days, like my parents and my generation before my parents, people respected each other more, first of all. There was a bit more education at home, you know what I mean? Then now, I find that now it's more go on the internet, so they read whatever's on there kind of thing. So like you said, they see those videos, whatever, movies, they try to act or be tough like these guys, which they're just actors, you know?
But if we think really objectively, a strong family raising the children in that home build a resilience around the children, so the media doesn't penetrate their psyche. My kids, not to brag about my kids or anything, but my kids were exposed to the same music, movies, everything as all other kids.
Right.
But we were able to provide dialogue and insight and opinion and allow them to share their thoughts and so forth. So I'm comfortable that they're resilient. Like the thought of one of my children picking up a gun is so remote. Right, because they were built to be resilient through the parenting body, and that's what I'm saying. If parents don't have those skills, we have to pick up the ball. Those of us who know what it takes, right? And I'm talking the corporations, I'm not going to name anybody, but if your kid's spending X amount of dollars on something that the family can't afford, they're going to find a way to get it if that's perceived to be what builds self-esteem. And it doesn't.
So it's like these, just like these Xbox and PlayStation games.
Exactly.
Like the kid in Montreal that went to the school too and was in his basement, and his parents knew he was in his basement, and he was setting up the plot to shoot up.
But you know, and it's
Oh, the guy with all the guns?
all the guns and McDonald and kill him. But what are the parents missing?
it comes
Are
down
they
to
not-
They're missing the game. They're not down there learning how to play the game and interacting and saying and like
But how do we teach the parents that we don't come across like we're being strong-arming them? Is there a way to come across?
It's inclusion.
Right.
Like I know movies from the 30s because my mother, I sat and watched them with her, Fred Astaire and Nat King, all the music I learned from her, which catapulted me into the music business.
It's so true. It really is about the love that comes from the parents.
Absolutely.
Because I feel that exact same connection. It wasn't 30s movies, but I was sitting down and
What did you
watching. But I was sitting down watching Bond films with my dad.
Yeah.
And there was so I just feel like there's so much to be said, and it sounds super cheesy, but so much to be said about literal love, and it solves everything, literally.
And
From
it's
that,
not
like,
cheesy. That's
yeah.
the other thing. Like,
It's the truth.
you know, in parts of the world, like in India, for example, the kid who gets the highest grade in math gets all the girls.
Wow.
What happens over here?
You don't
It's
get
not-
nothing.
You're a nerd,
Yeah.
right? You get called a nerd, you get called whatever.
And then you
Like,
get the peer pressure, and then you have the peer pressure on top of that, and all of a sudden you're hanging out with a couple of guys. Next thing you know what? You want to be part of the group. Here's a little piece of metal. Can you go do us a favor? And you're lost. Your life's over.
Your life's over. Exactly. So that's what Just Think First is all about. We really want to send a message that all these gaps need to be filled, both the gap between policing and community, between parent and child, between peer and peer, and make sure that folks are all thinking in the same realm at the same time as much as possible to resolve the issue of violence and gun violence, like as I said, as the iconic element of violence itself. And you know, as I was going to say earlier, when ants are moving and leave, 5,000 ants are moving and leave, 500 don't chill on the side and say, yo, let me know when you guys get there, I'll come join you. No, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
You know, everybody gets under and around that leaf and moves it together. And it's part of the lifestyle. You know, we've lost a lot of that because of economics and we compete.
Media, what they're teaching
and
us.
crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody's successful, you're mad at them. And like,
This is the problem. If somebody gets successful, then all of a sudden somebody's jealous and somebody else. And how did you make? Put the work in, man.
Right.
I studied. Went to school. How do you become a successful athlete? You know?
Yeah.
You got to, like we're talking about the ant movie with the visionary. Athletes' vision running down the track weeks, months before. Guys visualize catching that ball. You think, oh, Darren Beckham was just went out there and catching that. He sees him catching that ball. That's why he's become one of the best
Absolutely.
at it in NFL football
Absolutely.
right now.
You have
And he
to have a
does it
vision.
week in, week out, non-stop.
Right.
And that's in any realm, really, in any discipline. Like
Absolutely.
it's about and it's also a passion.
But the issue is not necessarily an issue. Is everybody wants instant gratification, and you want to have that right away. It takes time, so people have to remember it takes time to get to that level. And if we all do it together and breathe, and even if you have to meditate to get there, and it'll happen.
we call it small steps, big moves.
Does,
So-
sorry, does any part of your organization deal with politicians, try to change the bylaws or the laws regarding guns?
Yeah, you know what? Here's a beautiful thing. If just envision an entire community thinking in the same realm at the same time about change,
Right.
And then call a politician and say, this percentage of the community, I know election time's coming up, this percentage of the community has this opinion on this issue as a collective.
Right. Okay.
That's how you invoke change.
Okay.
You understand? Like because votes are the currency.
Right.
That's what it's all based on. It's all based on votes.
I've got a question. Do you see a correlation between, because I find kids, a lot of youth now have nothing. They don't do anything. They have no,
Social skills.
I can't say social skills, aspirations, no goals. They don't have any extra, like I grew up, I had an identity as a ballet dancer. That's what I did. I had stuff to do. So I was busy. Do you find that there is a correlation between idle kids and idle hands and guns and violence?
Yeah, I think kids definitely need to be occupied. And the beautiful thing about the time being occupied through extracurricular activities and so forth is that those things, I played a lot of sports. I learned accountability. I learned reliability. I learned support. I learned teamwork, et cetera, et cetera. you know, just as you
And
did as
discipline.
adult. Yeah, like
But that's all at the home again. Like your parents done that.
Exactly.
Listen, I grew up in Ireland, and it was the same thing. I could have been around Belfast for a long time and around a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't want to see as a kid.
But you're not, and that's 'cause of your parents.
Because you know, my mother had a strong Sally rod on her and a strong dishcloth, and she let me know whatever this and that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the parents. What you teach your child.
Yeah.
You got to understand.
True,
Love,
but we
love.
got to always go back to the fact: what if a parent doesn't know that or understand it or hasn't been privy to that grandparenting them, that grandparent parenting them, and that's the thing. So we've got to be really humble and really open-minded that not everybody's been afforded the same social, pro-social training in the home as everyone else.
But then again, the laws when it comes to children too is like if you even actually lift your hand to put your hand on your child for, let's say, all that, next thing you know, you're in trouble.
Yeah, because quite frankly, with great respect, that's violence too. Right? And if you look from an intergenerational standpoint, as far as the Atlantic slave trade, everything that was done to bring black people to the Western Hemisphere was violently based, based on violence. Right? So you'll see those things manifesting generation after generation, and there's been no rehab. You know, all the PTSD studies that were done in association with the Holocaust are creating great insight and understanding.
Farley.
And we'll be back right after this.
We'll not actually be back right after the break. Farley, it was awesome having you here. Al, Farley's information is on the web, the end of the credits, so please tune in and catch Farley. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back here. We're back here with Amoy, our artist, rooted in reggae music.
Yeah.
You're native from Jamaica. You're born in Jamaica?
Jamaica, yeah. Born
Wow.
and raised in Jamaica.
Cool. Been singing for a long time, I guess.
I've been singing forever. I grew up in the church back home with my grandparents, and so I was raised singing in the church choir, and I've been singing ever since.
And then you jump into the world of reggae, and your life changes, right?
Right?
Straight from the church into the fire.
You know it. Jamaica, reggae is the art of Jamaica when it comes to the music, and so it was.
We're hearing a lot of stuff about a lot of artists right now using a lot of reggae music and dancehall and background and not giving artists right stuff. Not to be knocking anybody in particular, we're just saying it's a big thing in the music industry right now, not giving reggae artists their props. So you're working on a new album, right?
New album called The Light, coming out top of the new year.
Top of the new year to me, and this is your last one. Help into the new album, Enter the Warriors.
Enter the Warriors, Amoy.
Amoy, eh? Good for
Out
you.
on iTunes right now.
It's on iTunes right now.
Yes.
There you go. Get
Spotify.
it on iTunes right now.
Yes.
You know. So from the church to the fire, eh?
From the church to the fire.
Not to say it's a bad thing, but I mean, you know.
My grandmother would actually love to hear. She would probably agree
Yeah,
with
my
you.
mother wouldn't let me say it.
Because she would rather me singing
in the
church music. Yes,
That's
exactly.
Cool.
Well, what do you usually sing about? What's the subject matter of your...
Well, my music is conscious reggae.
Yeah.
So I sing about life, anything that I'm experiencing, and I sing. But one of the songs that I'm going to perform for you guys is called "Shooting," and it's about anti-gun violence and anti-war period. I'm always singing about consciousness and.
Oh wow! So we should have had
Upliftment
you on the panel there like 10 minutes ago.
Always,
Yeah, it's
Like,
always
we know you know
positive.
flex.
positive message.
Wow.
Always a positive message.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of gun violence in Jamaica,
I mean, all over.
all over the world. That's what we were
Yes.
talking about
Literally
earlier. But
all
yeah,
over. It's
Yes.
yeah.
insane.
It just
Really.
seems to be a lot more. Anyway, let's get into that later note here about your music and stuff. You know, I mean,
yes. Yeah.
it's great that you're doing some music about that, so it'll teach people at the same time. Like, listen, I'm sure Bob was a great inspiration.
He was my biggest.
You know, like
inspiration.
he had said one point when he got shot, and he came back out the next day and got on stage. He says, "Well, I can't take a day off because the criminals on the gun.
They don't take day off. Exactly.
You know,
Wow.
Exactly. I love his writing, and which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do reggae, because I find with reggae music you get a chance to really spread the message a little bit more with heart and soul as opposed to pop music.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And working with certain labels, they'll try to push you a certain way. With reggae music, I'm independent. I'm able to go where I want to go and be free with my writing.
But you're pretty
and
damn
music.
successful here in Toronto, right? Because I've seen you myself like, in Caravana Weekend and stuff
Yes,
like that. there,
yes.
and
I've
you've
been
performing.
blessed. I've been
Yeah.
blessed.
You write your own material.
Yes, I do. I'm a singer-songwriter.
Good.
And your positive messages through your songs, is that based from your church background? Or?
Absolutely, and how I was raised,
How you were
as
raised.
well, and just seeing what's going on, and I just wanted to talk about certain issues and bring light to them and try to make a difference in my way.
Everybody's trying to make a difference in everybody's life, and that's
Right.
how you do it
Exactly.
is the point. And you're doing it from reggae music, which
From
is a
music,
great thing.
yeah.
I
love
have
reggae music.
to like mention, your look is everything.
Oh.
It's given me life.
Well, coming from you, I'm
I just want to
flattered.
say, wow.
Thank you. I'm flattered. Thank you so much.
Love,
Love
everyone.
yours too. I love you, all you guys looking all dapper. And yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Derek, look at you got lights in your eyes all of a sudden.
Right.
What's going on here, buddy?
I love what's happening here.
Thank
I feel
you.
good, like,
Admiration in your
Thank
eyes.
you. Aw.
vibe.
Hey, is that
So-
a like a
Vibe.
little
It's
jealous
all about
side?
vibes.
Vibe.
Yeah.
All about light energy, yes.
Exactly. Which brings me to your album, the
Light.
next one that's coming up. It's called The Light.
The light.
And that is.
It's really talking about things, well, really, I've been going through a spiritual awakening and finding that light, that my inner voice, my intuition, and following that path.
Out of the fire, back into the church.
Right, back to the soul,
There you
to
go.
the
Back to the
spirit.
beginning.
Huge difference.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So is that your second album, or your
That's going to be my second album. My first album came out in 2010, and that was a collaboration album with Riza Shin from Ottawa. It was more of an electronic reggae fusion album.
Okay.
This one is more reggae and a little bit of fusion, but not so much dance, more like, I would say, a little bit of drum and bass and a little bit of pop in there, but mostly reggae.
And you
So can
said,
people see you in Toronto right now, somewhere, anywhere?
Yes. Well, tomorrow night I'm going to be performing at the JCA, the Jamaican Canadian Association, for October Savoir Fair, and that's on at 10. We're on. Showtime is 10 p.m. And then you can see me during the week. I have a residency at Kazamoto in Yorkville.
Oh,
So you
listen,
can see me
we'll be
there on
right back with
Thursdays
Hawaii.
and Saturdays. Yes.
Awesome to have you. Looking forward to your
you.
performance. Great show, guys.
This song is called Shooting. It's about anti-violence. We don't promote war. No kind of violence. All about love. One love. Hey. Me love me, me love me, me love me, me love me. Me love me life. Me not gonna sell me soul. The situation, nation, is getting out of control. I'm coming up for the children who don't know where to go. With nobody to teach them, how will they ever know? Where is the right? Stop doing wrongs. All the youth them seem to know is how to kill another man. Stop the shooting. Just shooting. Stop the war. Stop the war. Yeah. It's icky out there. Me not gonna tell no lie. Every week, every other day, another brother lose them life, and they don't know how we come by. No respect for themselves or the most high. You time I come, me I show you, and to him judge a man you are gonna cry. Where is the right? Stop doing wrongs. All the youth them seem to know is how to kill another man. Stop the shooting. Just shooting. Stop the war. Stop the war. Stop the shooting. The shooting. Stop the war. Stop the war. Chop. Hey, stop the war. Stop the war. Stop the war. Stop the war. Wagga. Yo, me say you live by the gun, you aga die by it. You make another man blood run, you pay for it. And when you think it's all done, that won't be it. Your soul will pay for your badges. Remember this. Me say you live by the gun, you aga die by it. You make another man blood run, you pay for it. And when you think it's all done, that won't be it. Your soul will pay for your badges. Remember, stop the war. Stop the war. Stop the war. Stop the war. Wagga. People.